I'm Mary.
And I'm Carla.
And we're the Smiley twins. She had to push record. We don't have an assistant today. We are back with another episode of Not Just Lip Service with Smiley Aesthetics. We are pre-recording this for the 10th.
Yes, the 10th.
Because we are going to Aesthetic next week in Dallas, which we're so excited about. And we look forward to telling you all about how that went.
On the 17th. Yeah.
Right, the episode, yes, I'm saying we look forward to also recording an episode where we tell you all
Well, the
about
truth is Mary wanted to act like we'd already been there, and I was like,
Well, I
but
didn't
we might
necessarily-
have some really,
It's not that
we
I
might have some good stuff from that, and we don't want to say that. Or what if it got canceled?
Yeah, I didn't really care. I was just figuring it out. So today we wanted to talk about the last episode. We talked about the differences or advantages and disadvantages of like brick and mortar versus starting out mobily, renting a space in a salon, and just kind of our opinions on that, and kind of the different things to consider with it. And so this week we wanted to just kind of.
Courtney we were gonna have Courtney
Oh, that's
on
right.
this episode.
And then we did say we were gonna have Courtney Walker, our third partner, and attorney on this episode.
But again, we're pre-recording.
But since we're pre-recording, yeah, that wasn't correct.
Yeah.
It's hard to plan out the old podcast.
And we are amateurs.
We are growing and we are learning and with this, so hopefully they get better as you go, which is kind of funny, you listen to podcasts, and I do this with True Crime Podcasts, and I'm a True Crime fan, and the first initial episodes when I started listening to, say, Sword and Scale or whatever, the way they grow and even the sound quality and like especially if it becomes a popular podcast, like obviously some money's gone back into it, and it's funny to hear it change over like the content, the everything. It's just more seasoned.
So hopefully you'll hear us grow and change
maybe
over time.
next year we will, after we do a few of these will get a little more better. Maybe not. Okay, but today we want to talk about the things that you need to consider when you're starting your own aesthetic practice. And the goal of the podcast too is we want to have multiple people on here. I think I've said it before. We want to interview some people within Smiley, without, hopefully down the road. But, we want it to be a conversational podcast that our thoughts, one of the beauties of us being identical twins is our brains are very similar, but we also still kind of go off on these little paths. So we want to have a topic for each podcast, but let our minds travel and stuff. So if it seems like it's all over the place, some episodes, it's kind of intentional.
It's kind of how we operate.
Right.
Which should be a positive to everybody, because it's not always as...
She does love to say that it's seems super put together, which we hope it does, the business in general, but hot mess express behind the scenes. I mean, like, really.
Yes.
So...
Okay, so what are some of the things that you need to start an aesthetics business? And then we're going to, it's going to be kind of smiley eyes, because we're going to obviously tell you some of the companies that we chose to go with and maybe some why behind them, or what went into making that decision.
Sure.
And why why it's important. Do go into some of these topics in a little more in depth in the business hour and the training class. But
yes.
If you have questions about it or want some more understanding as to why we did what we did, feel free to reach out or let us know.
Yeah.
We kind of did things, I would say that we haven't really shifted. So let's dive in and we'll talk about that. So a lot of the companies we went with in the beginning, we're still with.
Right. And we haven't.
It's kind of like nailed it.
Yeah, right. We are really big on not starting out, though, with huge, we kind of lose a lot of huge menus and huge, different offerings, and your client looks in there and there's 17 different, facials or whatever. We kept it really simple, and we have maintained that model. We've added services on very slowly, I would argue, for the typical probably med spa as you might see it. So the first thing after you get your training and some of those initial things.
Well, let's talk about training.
Well, true, that's true. So let's back up. I want to get into aesthetics.
Yeah, so fun.
What do I need to do? Which is like such a common question that I get in my inbox. And we always do start with training, because every state requires that you get education or training on a new practice of medicine. If you're going to offer something that you've never done before, you need to be trained properly. And in some states it's very specific, and in other states it's not. However, all states do require some sort of training. Our training program, of note, covers all the states. Whether you need, it's very hands-on and safety focused, which is a requirement of many states. You have to have hands-on training. You can't just watch a virtual, whatever. And
health
then,
stream.
Yeah, and then other states have a little bit more gray. I hate using that word in aesthetics. We overuse it, but terminology. But ultimately, you should have hands-on training, especially for Botox, filler, microneedling, all of these things that we are putting needles into people's faces, as well as some didactic and understanding of facial anatomy and stuff.
Now, training is not where we typically recommend you start. It is the starting point of a lot of action, I guess. I typically say it's not the starting point. Clinically, it's the starting point, right? Training is the starting point.
Sure.
Educating yourself on
starting requirement.
Yeah. But from like a business perspective, we often recommend that training be one of the final pieces that you do. The reason being is that so you
you
stay
get started
relatively close to your training. Yeah.
You can get started injecting, right away, because there's this level of, this is once again a little tiny, a level of confidence that, lack of confidence, that's just right, say that surrounds injecting. Once again, because you're putting needles in people's faces. We don't get taught facial anatomy very well. Only select few specialties in medicine do. So, to what she said, making it one of the last things you do before you're, or having your ducks in a row, so that when you go to training, maybe you start the next week. You just have kind of.
It's not like a 6 or 8 week gap where you're trying to figure out.
And that's just
all
a
these
suggestion. It is not a lot of people come to training and they're just.
It's the first thing I ask. I'm like, so who decided they wanted to do aesthetics last week, and here you are? And there's always a couple that are like, okay, I'm about to scare you to death for the next hour,
right, and tell you all the things that you need.
But it's gonna be fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, for the purposes of this, having training is required. It's it is something that is totally necessary, and you can't really get by without it. So don't try, and you shouldn't want to. Right? Injecting is an art, so I won't go off on that tangent. But a good starting point clinically is training, and then maybe I guess prior to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's things some of these things you can do obviously prior to, particularly business wise, to or set your training date and then get some other stuff done in between or whatever the case is. Which either way, like she said. Now, as far as choosing a training, obviously, Smiley Aesthetics has a training.
Clearly,
and we definitely take pride in what Mary has built and what we've done in that training. It's accredited for CEs and et cetera. However, we're not the only training out there, and there's a lot of them. One thing that we're proud of is we keep our price point reasonable. You can find trainings that are in the hundreds of dollars all the way up to the thousands of dollars. And, provider's time, an experienced injector's time is certainly valuable. However, it goes against our very core values to charge somebody, the injector is going to make, $500 an hour to train you on basic Botox. That's just not really all that. You don't need to do that. You just don't need to do that.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. And
it's unnecessary for basic trainings. Now, some of the advanced trainings get on up there,
sure.
And that's a little bit different.
Sure, yes.
But I think in light of A, keeping your overhead low, and B, I mean, it is you get what you pay for in some instances, and I understand that principle, but
here's a public service announcement that you don't have to pay, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to go be trained on Botox, your basic filler, because you're not going to learn all your filler in a day. And if someone, or even a weekend, if someone tells you you're going to get, 40 hours of hands-on training in the weekend or whatever, and you think that that's going to make you just, it's time. It is seeing different clients' faces. You're just, it's too much information in our opinion to inundate you with.
Even to go back-to-back days is almost too much energy. I mean, we are exhausted at the end of one day of learning basic Botox and like lips.
Yes.
I mean, just the basics. So
yeah. We really believe in how we've separated the program of a basic day for Botox, and then
we don't do advanced.
No, and the filler, and the filler portion on the same day and this is a full day, and it's so focused. Only the first hour and a half or so is didactic. We do include the business hour with Carla. It usually goes a little over time, and then the rest of the day is for hands-on, and so.
That's a key component to training, right? Is the hands-on. If you're looking for training.
Yes. With that being said, I don't care if you do 10 sets of lips in a weekend, you're going to have the same fear that if you do the two. Focusing on safety, what do I need to know to be safe? And then, some basic anatomy and stuff. That's what you should get out of your first training. How to be safe. And then as you go accept your first clients, I also disagree with, you don't need 5 trainings in order to get started. You need the safety tips. That's the focus of the training, hands-on and safety tips. then going and accepting your first couple clients with safety in mind versus an art. You're just not going to pick up the art of injecting in a weekend, in a day, honestly in 5 trainings.
Right.
You just got to get out there.
But to your point, you don't need 3 or 4 to be able to safely and correctly and aesthetically pleasingly do someone's Botox or a basic set of lips.
Yeah, but exactly.
It's just not that complicated.
No, and
there's just only so many ways the muscles can flow.
Yeah, well, we hope you take out of the training and what we have done for over 100 providers of our own, and I need to really tally up how many providers we've actually trained, but it's probably close to 500 or so, is safety for both Botox and filler, and then we have people come back for a second day of the rest of the anatomy and stuff, or the rest of the areas of the face to inject.
Usually weeks later.
Yeah,
like
and
not the next
we
day.
are hoping for weeks later, because once again, I've not found any value in all of these providers I've ever trained, and the ones that we still have our finger on, the 100 or so of someone doing back-to-back basic and advanced.
Just too much.
It's too much.
So the point of that is choose your training. You're looking for hands-on. You are looking at price point. That's a consideration unless you just have money to burn. Then go for it. But the hands-on piece, the bedrock of compliance and safety.
And then and then the trainer. Sorry, I kind of interrupted you because some of these companies, some of these bigger companies, you don't have any idea who's training you. I don't agree with that either. So knowing, who runs your training, who is the person who oversees the training, for example, myself, and who have I been trained by, and how long have I been injecting, those things are very important. Who am I going to learn from? And, am I a person, a medical provider, hopefully, in one of these bigger companies that they just hired to inject with, what experience they have. You just don't know any of those things, and that can be, that's super important to know. Ask those questions, ask us those questions, ask anyone those questions. So I kind of interrupted your really good list you had running. It was the price point.
Yeah,
what all are you learning?
Focus on safety and compliance.
Focusing on safety and compliance. What all are you learning? Super big on having something that focuses on the business part, because I'll tell you, my first training, I went in there.
I didn't even know you needed.
It was so bad.
Like the medical director thing. I know that sounds crazy, but I barely even knew that. I was
because it's so hard to find.
I got to find a medical director, and and I'm not an advanced practice nurse.
Heck, they were drawing up the Botox. I didn't even know the syringe. I just didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so, asking questions like that about the training. So I think we've harped on the training a lot.
Okay, the training.
Training is a great first clinical step. If you have some business and stuff questions, there are maybe some things you could get done before, but. And I'll plug for Smiley. Again, the beauty of our training is the first thing we do is the business hour, in which we answer a bunch of those business questions. So then it's like, okay, now I know what to do in the week or so
and answer them in depth. It's not just, here's all the list of things to do. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give some real guidance on some of that stuff, which is kind of what we're doing today. So,
Okay, so you go to training and you get a little business advice. You kind of we'll go into the business stuff later. You get let's say you do want to do an LLC, which you can or cannot do. Maybe it's recommended or not. Maybe you get your credit card. Those are all kind of separate topics that we can dive into later.
Yeah, managing money and stuff is a different
How do
topic.
I get any product? Yeah. So, like we said, we're going to Smiley-ize this a little bit. So with us, you get it from us. We do all of that for you, that part for you. We're able to pass down deals and stuff from, I don't want to call it a group purchase, a GPO or a group purchasing. It's more of just, we've structured ourselves under our umbrella in a way to pass down great deals and stuff on products, on our products.
Yeah, you're leveraging size, but I think more importantly, we've created such a partnership with the company that we're loyal to. I mean, we
and so choosing so either with Smiley it's offered, or you're selecting your company.
Yes.
So Allergan, MERS, Galderma, those are some of the 3 big names in the United States. Quick little plug here, you can only use United States companies. There's no foreign companies to be used. So that's just a very aggressive suggestion, because we don't give legal advice on this podcast. But U.S.-based company, and get your products from there. They cannot be imported. So we'll just stick with those 3. There's some other companies out there. We chose Allergan. We chose Allergan for a very specific reason. They're super compliant. After my previous experience in a med spa prior to Smiley, I didn't know anything about compliance or anything like that. I just did remember little things I heard in the industry that while I was in it about Allergan is just super they're hard to get product from because they're so compliant, was kind of like what it was. Turns out it is not that hard to get product from them. However, they are very compliant. That was very true.
Yeah.
And we like that because compliant equals safety, as I always like to say.
And then there's the loyalty component. You know, the companies typically have, you know, tiers for how much product you buy. And starting out, you're not so worried about that. It's more like we talked about, setting foundational things that if you do end up like us, and we never thought this, then you have set yourself up for success. So by being loyal to the company from a business perspective, that makes a ton of sense, because you do gain that relationship with them, whether it's from the reps or whatever the case is. As you grow, they're very excited and they're there to support you. At least Allergan is. They want you to see you succeed, because if you succeed, they succeed.
Right.
And different things. There's a lot of benefits to being loyal. I also think that that offering the different talks is fine, but we have not found that, like, I mean, we've maybe lost a handful of. First off, Botox is the OG. Botox brand is the original.
Right.
So
Every if we're just talking about neurotoxin, every neurotoxin is measured against Botox. Botox studies, Botox, everything that is the standard.
And the market share was still overwhelmingly in Botox's favor through
Yes.
2021 and even 2022. So, and other toxins are coming up. So it's, you know, it is what it is. You pick you pick what you want, what's in your market, and sticking to loyalty is definitely the key there. But offering a bunch of different ones, I mean, we just haven't found value in that, and we haven't lost anybody who's like, oh, I just want Dysport. Maybe it's because we're very clearly Botox.
I'm
and
not
so we
sure.
don't
I
have
don't think
those
we
people
marketed
come.
that, obviously,
I don't
but
know. But it doesn't seem to be,
to matter that much.
Yeah.
And with that being said, from a clinical little plug, they're all serotype A neurotoxins.
Yeah,
so
the differences.
don't get, it's a lot of marketing that, a lot of the differences that you see in the when marketing is marketing. It's finding a way to separate itself from the OG, which is Botox.
And some people are super passionate about Botox. Didn't work at all, but Dysport did. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's always
and that's fine, but that's just the loyalty for this plug, choosing your accounts in general. We are loyal to other companies in regards to other aspects of our business, and it just serves us very well in terms of relationships, and that's a part of business. And for medical providers, to me, it's no different. I usually liken it to, like, when I was a nurse in a trauma unit. Like, I made sure to be, friends with different surgeons, and I say that in the sense of, like, have relationships with them, because it made everything else in your life go smoother. And that's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
I mean, relationships are key, and they're key in business. And
sure. It does that's so true. So operationally, which is Carla's specialty, it makes everything easier, right? If you only have one company to order, all of this product from versus 5. And then let's go back to the menu thing. If you have a menu that offers, cheek filler, and there's, 4 different fillers on there, or, what product do you use? Hopefully your injector can speak to rheology and some of these other things as to why they choose what they choose, but a lot of new injectors cannot. So since we're kind of talking about that new injector, you're just not ready. No.
What's the difference between Botox and Dysport?
So it's really, we stand by the simplicity of a menu, and that goes hand in hand with partnering with
choosing
one
partners,
company, loyalty to one company. Allergan has 96% of the face FDA approved when it comes to filler, and then Botox is the only neurotoxin approved in 3 areas versus just the one for most of the others, with more areas coming. So, it was an easy, obvious choice for us clinically, but like I said, mainly the reason we initially looked into it was compliance, because we really wanted to start things out right. So you've chosen a company.
You've gotten trained, and you've chosen a company to partner with.
And so then it's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
How do I make an account?
Right, online. Go to their website, and you make an account, and
well, you need a medical director, typically.
Right. Okay. So
let's talk about that a little bit. So
I guess.
Well,
you just need a medical director.
Yeah.
Depending on your
Well, no,
state.
I want to talk about a little bit about how strongly I feel about this relationship. There are a lot of circumstances. Are you an RN? Are you an APRN? Are you a physician? What are you doing? There's, we're not going to get into all the legalities.
Which
and the
state
rules.
are you in?
What state are you in? What are the rules? All that kind of stuff. CRNA. I mean, there's the PA. There's a lot of different things, and that's for navigation. If you're doing this on your own. But when it comes to a medical director, and I'm going to work off the one of the things that I was passionate about when we started our business was the relationship between the medical director, and in Tennessee, it's a physician for
it's a collaborative state.
So it's a physician for us And I am an RN. I'm not an advanced practice nurse, so I'm just an RN for the purposes of what we're talking about.
Oh, I hate when she says that.
I know, but I mean, when you're talking about this, there are delineations between APRN and RN that are incredibly important. But the role of the medical director, depending on who he or she is, now there are plenty of physicians and higher level providers that have skill in aesthetics and
sure, med spas were born on the backs of plastic surgeons who are
and things like that.
extremely,
But there are also, because of the wave of aesthetics, there are a lot of physicians who, we need their license, we need their oversight for legal and compliance reasons, and so it is an opportunity and a business opportunity. The requirements of the medical director are not very aggressive in the cosmetic world, so I just feel very strongly, and then we'll quickly
in the
move
medical
on.
world, really.
Well, yeah, that the oversight required is, I'm just going to throw this out, like, it's not deserving of half of your profit. It's not deserving of, a large fee. It's not deserving of really any of that. And so I just highly encourage those who are listening to this to find that physician who is not interested in just the money and is more interested in you as a person and maybe seeing you grow, because once you realize exactly what the role of the medical director is in your business, and in the med spa, you're going to realize how, yes, you need them, but they also need you, how little that is.
Yeah.
And so I just don't like to see nurses being gouged because we are raised in an environment in a hospital where the physician is king or queen, and I'm, not opposed to that, but this is not the same thing. You are not in that same environment. You are the one that this business is going to be built on, and so it's just, in most instances. So I just really feel strongly about that relationship and that conversation. And if somebody wants a ridiculous amount of money,
your business is going to sink before it ever gets started.
It's just, you're not even going to make that much money. So to give away that much for next to nothing when you don't even have clients to be overseen is kind of comical. But you do have to have that relationship before you ever take a client.
Yes, because I guess Allergan,
you require that. So that's why I bring that up. And you don't know what you don't know. So sometimes people are like, oh, well, they're just going to charge me $1,000 a month starting out. And I'm like, do you know how much time is required to oversee you when you don't have clients? None. No time. There's no time. There's no liability. There's no risk. There's nothing. Oh, cool. You got your first 10 clients. Do you know how many in the state of Tennessee those charts had to be overseen? 2. No. So it's just, for 2 charts, do we need to pay $1,000? That's like $4,000 an hour. I mean, that is
right.
That is impressive.
So she gets passionate on it, as she said.
I get twisted about this.
There's a lot of other things to consider when you're with medical directors and how you pay them, and there's a corporate practice of medicine and so many compliance and legalities things that we're
and
not.
I have all the respect in the world for the record.
Sure,
I really do. I just think that that oftentimes it's an ignorance on both sides. It's more the physician side not understanding what their role is because
they're liable for,
or what
usually.
they're liable for. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then the other side of it just being from a world where it is absolutely a different environment than what you're entering into.
Sure.
You're doing all the work in this regard.
Yeah.
So you got your medical director.
You've got we got our training. We got our medical director. We went on to Allergan, .com or whichever it is, and we opened up an account. At that point, somebody should reach out to you, and this is critical because this question comes to me all the time via social media or an email or whatever. But theoretically, somebody should reach out to you once you open that account. You should receive some sort of an email from somebody. It just doesn't always happen. So if you have signed up for a, let's just say Allergan account or MERS or Galderma, whoever you use, and you don't know, you should get a rep. You should be assigned somebody who is local to your area as well as regional. Typically, there is an inside and outside rep. Your outside rep is typically local, and your inside rep is typically not. That doesn't make sense to me. But somebody should be communicating with you on how to place your first order. With that being said, the industry market is booming. The aesthetics market is booming. So I think if a ton of accounts are coming in, they're people, they're humans. And not all, I don't know that it's an automated process is what I'm trying to say. So if you don't receive communication pretty much instantly within 24, I would argue, I'll say 48 hours, you should be reaching back out to Allergan or MERS or Galderma and asking, what am I, who is my rep? Because there are reps for every single company. Mm-hmm. That's how this industry is run, just like other ones. We just don't typically see them in the hospital, right? But every product has a rep.
Or we see them and we're like...
Yeah, or we see them and hope they bring cookies. But every product has a rep. So connecting with your rep, what I say is the takeaway from this.
Right. And,
Opening an account and connecting with your rep.
And it is so important because in the instance of Allergan, by example, they are so critical to us. I mean, it's everything from lunch and learns to marketing. You know, Allergan doing direct-to-consumer marketing.
Sure.
It is. They are knowledgeable. They have been injectors. They have experienced it. They are just great partners and advocates. And if you grow, they grow. If you succeed, I mean, they're commission based. If you win, they win. So
I should go ahead and say the other reason now that we've stuck with Allergan solely is their business development side. It is, I mean, it's strategy, it's marketing, it's business development. Allie itself is by far the greatest rewards program because I have looked into all of the other ones, and you know, it's just they are
direct manufacturer coupons.
I mean, just
like $35 off, but Allergan's reimbursing that, and like there's just a lot of really cool things. Juvederm Day and Botox
free
Day.
I mean, really free marketing
cool
by using them as a business. I mean, like, I'm not going to get into how much we obviously love Allergan and are loyal to them. So,
but meet your rep.
Yeah. So all that to say, because we'll be on this forever. We're back to training. You know, you do need a medical director.
That's your account.
Depending on which state and what level of provider you are, you've figured out which company you want to open with or companies, and you've opened those accounts. And then, your rep, you've connected with your rep.
Let's talk about supplies real quick.
I was about to say, so prior to maybe ordering a product or in tandem with, let's consider that a supply, don't forget that you need supplies to inject somebody's face. And I'm not kidding. We've literally had people who forget things. Yeah, I remember.
And do not buy the kit if you don't come to our training. We don't sell a kit because that's ridiculous. Do not buy a kit, a pre-made kit at another training.
And think, and I get I get the value of it. Like, I get the value of like, oh, it's all here, but I mean, it may not even be, I mean, it's just
maybe 5 clients worth, and you're for like $300. And seriously, for like between $250 and $300, you can get every supply, all the supplies you need for what, 100?
It'll be like a box of 100 needles, and that will probably get you through a minimum of 20 to 30 clients, you know, stuff like that. So with that being said, what we did on Smiley Aesthetics, our website, it's smileyaesthetics.com, and I think it's just /resources. It's under the training tab. We linked out just
from
all
Amazon.
of our, from Amazon.
Mostly.
All of our, not all of them from Amazon, but mostly. All of our favorite stuff that injectors have tried, we've tried in the med spas and mobily, and we update it if something changes or something gets cheap, or I don't know. Quality for the price for the quality is what we went with, not the most expensive and certainly not the cheapest. And it's all listed out right there. Like, we've made it to where, like, what you need for Botox, what you need for microneedling, what you need for, just the different types of things.
It's what you need. It's not any more, really, or any less. It's what we use as mobile injectors.
Yeah.
And then we had more than that when we started, and we took some stuff off, because you're like, I don't
never use it.
Yeah. And it may not be all inclusive. I don't know if we have, like, a hand mirror on there. I don't know.
Well, that's a good point. I'm not gonna sit here and say it includes everything, but it's a really good starting point. And the safety part of things, let's just go with that. The safety stuff, the alcohol swabs, the gauze, the needles, some of this stuff, cleansing stuff, that is on there, and which is what's important. And then it's, just not forgetting.
It's like $300 or less to get.
Which includes the mobile kit.
Yeah, the little mobile kit that you don't buy again, the little beauty bar, some things that you buy one time.
Right.
So when you go to do all those things, and they're actually the most expensive things, like a vial decapper, those things are the more expensive items. So when you go to rebuy all of it again for your next 20 patients or 15 or 20 patients, you're looking at rebuying needles. And
you say 20. The alcohol link on there, alcohol swab link on there is 400 alcohol swabs. So it's just. It'll get you a variety. You have to do some
overhead.
Right.
Keep your overhead
and supply management, of course, but don't forget your supplies. Don't get all your stuff together, and then I've just had people do it.
So we've trained. We got our medical director. We have our account and our supplies. EMR.
Yeah.
What did I mean? EMR.
Yeah, I know.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
Charting.
So
you got to keep your records. We're not going to go into once again that for a long time. So an EMR makes the most sense at this point in day and age. It's also just typically there are several different EMRs out there. We use Aesthetic Record. We started with Aesthetic Record, and we're still with Aesthetic Record. And so through all of this growth, if that doesn't speak to something, we are still with Aesthetic Record. Yep.
There's positives and negatives.
Sure, and one of the things that at Smiley we provide you with is the EMR. So we give you your own Aesthetic Record
built out, ready to
built
go.
out and ready to go, which that's very important to note because the build out of an EMR is very is intense, and depending on what you go with, most of them require manual build out by yourself because you have to load in your
or you can pay a large fee for someone else.
Right.
To do it.
So just don't forget your charting, however you're going to chart. And with that being said,
I think more solutions will come onto the market because as aesthetics is really growing, but
the solutions are growing. Like Aesthetic Record is
growing,
just growing and
adapting and changing. Yeah. But they're all, from an EMR standpoint, they're all new because the aesthetics market is new. Mm-hmm. So nothing is perfect, but it has like Aesthetic Record, the positives. It has a booking portal, a POS system,
a way to send to the MD, a way to
send to the chart. The MD has send the charts off. It has a way to do gift cards and memberships, and it integrates with things like MailChimp and Zapier and Care Credit and Cherry and all these other things. Now, there's several that do. We like the availability of the help support system. Mm-hmm. Aesthetic Record has one of the best. They call it the Learning Lab, where they have just broken down into almost too digestible. Like I'm almost like, man, I wanted it to be more. It cut YouTube videos in a searchable way. And we did consider changing at one point because our model is unique and no one had a solution for our model. And they rose to the occasion, and we looked at a couple others, and we were just like, no. Yeah. We also think they're super reasonably priced, so that it is not heavy on the overhead. It's only going to cost you, the highest plans for you and the medical director, if it's just you two, is only going to be $32 a month. So it's just not. I mean, you got to get the startup and stuff, which is not that expensive. So they've just done a good job of making it reasonable. So and it's pretty user friendly in terms of the charting on the cosmetic procedures. It's step by step. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It walks you through them.
Just like any EMR, it's like, oh my gosh, I roll
through it.
And then what took you 5 minutes takes you 30 seconds.
Okay, so now you have your EMR. So now your product, your supplies, your EMR, your oversight, your training. So that's the
main. I mean, really, you need your policy. You need policies and procedures. You need those for everything that you're doing. You just want to make sure. So your EMR, that doesn't come with like your consent and your pre and post instructions and your some of the education stuff that you need. There's definitely some things that you're going to have to either buy. We have a lovely website that we love to refer people to. It's called The Legal Bazaar. .co, not .com, .co, thelegalbazaar.co, and it has really, really good beefy consents and policies and procedures, medical director agreement. I don't think they add stuff, other stuff on there, but we have bought stuff from them, and we just highly recommend it. So as a way, if you don't, want to pay an attorney too much, I can't say that we don't recommend still taking it to an attorney because we always recommend an attorney. Yeah, but it shaves off some hours of them,
some stuff. Hopefully,
So
policies and procedures is a big one from a compliance standpoint. Mm-hmm. So getting into those are the big ticket items because you are starting your own cosmetic, your own practice,
your own hospital in a lot of ways.
I mean, in some ways. So there are other considerations, and we're not going to have time to cover them on this podcast. But there is something to be said that getting started and then having a diligence of continuing to explore the places that you don't have perfectly in line.
Right.
So we never recommend not having every single duck in a row from a legal and business, but this is not legal advice. But if you didn't have a perfectly written out policy for every single thing before you took your first client, I mean, it's just a lot to figure out.
Sure.
So you wanna explore all those things, but again, if you have taken your training, you just don't want to get too far away from that before you kind of get into it because a lot is uncovered as you practice.
True. So unfortunately, though.
That rules are rules, and you do need to.
So the rules are there. So this is where when people say that it's gray, I found less than one handful of things that are actually gray. So I mean, the laws are there, the rules are there to what she was just saying. It's just a matter of being able to find them, which is extremely difficult and almost impossible for civilians half the time. They're there. So this isn't a plug to scare you and find out everything before you get started, but technically you should. This is a plug for these are the things that Smiley provides you with under our umbrella is the policy procedures and some of the compliance pieces, all the compliance pieces we do provide those. So,
and then there's the business side of things. We didn't even touch on that stuff. Like I highly recommend an LLC. And managing your money, kind of separately from your own personal stuff.
Business credit card, maybe.
Yeah,
business
like
checking
there's
account.
so much to go into that, like taxes and what does that mean. There is a lot of stuff to deal with there if you haven't ever dealt with it before. You don't have someone with experience in it. So again, this isn't all to be said to scare anybody. It's more just it's not just something you can, I'm just going to go do aesthetics. Like it's a business,
Which is
it's a
so
practice.
common, we hear it all the time.
Yeah, it's a practice and there's just a lot more to it. Seems like, everyone's doing it, so I must be able to do it. And that's true. That doesn't mean everyone's doing it right or doing it compliantly or well.
I'm going to say two things. Number one thing I hate hearing, being a trainer in this industry and on faculty for conferences and stuff, I cannot stand saying, well, so-and-so's doing it. So some of the largest companies in this industry are doing things not compliantly. It's crazy, but it's true. The Medspa down the corner, I don't care how bougie they look. That does not, what they're doing does not make it right. And then number two, I forgot number two, I think.
Yeah.
Number one was...
I kind of felt it leave your brain.
Yeah, it floated
I felt
away.
it float away.
I
didn't grab it, though.
Yeah, you should have.
Sorry.
I feel like that's the whole point of being a twin. Number one was, if someone else is doing it, that doesn't mean that it's compliant or legal or right.
And then being a side hustle, like it's just a side.
No, I can't remember. The point of this podcast, the point of this episode was to get you thinking about stuff, not like, if you feel like
not all inclusive.
Right, and we talk really fast, as I said in the last episode. So I just to kind of get all these conversations and stuff between her and I and the camera are to get you thinking about things, and then maybe questions, because like we've always said, and we're going to wrap it up. We'll take questions from these podcasts or whatever.
Yeah.
You can email either consulting@smileyaesthetics.com. I'm Mary@smileyaesthetics.com.
Carla.
She's Carla@smileyaesthetics.com. She does a little TikTok, and her Instagram is @CSmileyInjector. My Instagram is @InjectorSmiley. And then, of course, our Smiley Aesthetics social media accounts are pretty easy to find and follow. So we really try to offer things up as much as we can, but please ask. I know we're kind of abruptly ending this, but on the next episode of the podcast, I think we'll dive in a little bit more. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Well, we're going to talk to Courtney.
Yeah, hopefully this next
Courtney, we're going to
if not the next one, then the next one, but we do hope to have Courtney on here and kind of see where that takes us from a compliance standpoint and the conversation that kind of.
And then we'll talk about our experience at Aesthetic next, and might just be I was going to say pish posh. That's not the right word.
No,
mishmash.
A catch-all of the next week or week or two.
And our conference is worth it. Kind of our experience.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we've been to a couple of those, so we'll talk about that experience.
That's a great idea. Yeah,
we have a bunch of people going, so Wimby will talk to one of our injectors even that day about their experience and what that looks like, because so many people ask, is it worth going? Like, blah,
what
blah,
are the
blah.
good ones? And stuff.
So we can give a plug on that and introduce Courtney and
always send a question or something that'll spur along our conversation. Eventually, we'd love to have some questions that we can go off of each week when we do this. So if you have questions, we can answer them.
Feel free to email if you're seeing this.
Like and subscribe.
That's another episode of Lip Service. Not your slip service.
Okay, trying that again.
That concludes another episode of Not Your Lip Normal.
Not
Lip
just
Service.
lip service.
Not just lip service.
Okay, I have to go push the button.
Our assistant is not here.
What assistant?